Red Bull seems to be facing a difficult challenge ahead of the current Grand Prix in Spa, and on a race that will be massively hindered by the weather conditions all week long, the Austrian team will also take a 10-place grid penalty for mounting a new ICE on Verstappen's car. To top that off, the team now feels like they're in a bad position in terms of where the mid-season development has gotten them, and with Horner openly talking about this, it does look like the pure dominance of the RB20 is gone, and we will have an eventful remainder of 2024. Could we see a potential threat in both championships? And more importantly, what can Red Bull do in order to fix these issues on time? It goes without saying that Red Bull's dominance in 2023 is something that was quite extraordinary, and not even Horner expected for it to repeat. However, not winning a race in the last 3 events, which is something that happened for the last time in 2021's ending stages of the season, was not what was written in the cards for Red Bull. Obviously, the development war has gotten tougher, and Spa is poised to be an even tougher challenge considering how quick McLaren and Mercedes have become over the past couple of races. And to top that off, the weather conditions as well as the cold resurfaced tarmac suits the Mercedes-powered teams much more than Red Bull. Even Horner has gone on to speak about how right now they might be behind McLaren in terms of pure pace and performance, and for them to win both of the championships, especially the Constructors' one, they would need 2 of their drivers up at the front at constant time. Further adding, we had the fastest car in Spielberg with a 4/10ths lead. We managed to bring the car into its window there, but the narrow working window makes it difficult for the engineers to find the right setup and for the drivers to push the limit. We need a wider tyre margin, better balance and more stable aerodynamics that the team is very aware of and working very hard on. There are several factors that are worrying Red Bull in Spa, and one of them is the variable weather. This is something that Verstappen has spoken about and said that teams like Mercedes have often found a very good chunk of performance when the tarmac is cold. Considering that the rain and the air temperatures will definitely help the Silver Arrows in this regard, Red Bull would have even further problems catching up with the rest of the grid now that the maximum position that Verstappen can start from is P11. But nevertheless, the change in DRS is also something that should worry the Austrian team due to this being their biggest advantage in the season. The first DRS zone, which is on the Kennel Straight right after the Eau Rouge, has been shortened by 75 meters, and this means less ground for the RB20 to open up the flap of the rear wing and gain that momentum to pass. While it may not necessarily be a problem, it's definitely a challenge, because catching up to a car and then passing it with the right operating window of the tyres, as well as completing the manoeuvre with narrower range to miss, is definitely not what the Austrian team wanted to hear ahead of the Belgian Grand Prix. All in all, the track suits Red Bull, or at least used to suit them a lot in 2022 and 2023, where Verstappen won starting from P14 and P6, but even now he understands that it's impossible for him to have such an easy walk-in-the-park mission, despite teams like McLaren and Mercedes struggling on tracks that have low downforce requirements. On the other hand, Perez feels quite good about the upcoming race in Spa, and despite being adamant this won't be the last venue for him with the Austrian team, he also said that there's more potential to be unlocked from the upgrades that they brought in Hungary, even though they won't be used in Belgium, and the team will revert to the Silverstone specification due to the nature of the track. Adding to this matter, Perez said, "Our operating window has definitely been peakier and harder. We are changing as well for this weekend. We're doing another change that hopefully will make me feel the car a little bit better. We will try it in FP1 and see. It's something we cannot go too much into detail about, but it's something to improve the feeling of the car. If it works, great, but if not, I think we already took really good steps forward in Hungary." Helmut Marko would disagree with Perez as he normally does, feeling like the package in Budapest hasn't shown nearly as much as it should have, and while he does agree that there's more potential to unlock, we must not forget his previous statement: if the upgrades in Budapest do not work, then we're in trouble. The upgrades did seem to disappoint a lot, because even though Perez had an amazing recovery race starting from P16 and ending P7, Verstappen was nowhere near the top 2 cars on the grid, and in his fight with Hamilton for P3, he was also super aggressive, which almost cost him not finishing the race and having an even shorter gap to Norris in the Drivers' Championship. Furthermore, if you're to ask Verstappen, then the steps in Hungary were all but good, because he hasn't shied away from giving livid comments towards his team, something for which he received a lot of criticism from Lewis Hamilton, who said that Verstappen is a world champion and should act like one, be the leader in these tough times for Red Bull. But elaborating on this matter to a greater extent, Verstappen made it clear that his ultimate goal is to always have the best package possible, starting with the car and ending with the strategy. And even if they do miss on one aspect during the race, they no longer have the comfort of relying on his driving skills solely in order to win races, as we've now seen how competitive the MCL38 has become. Talking about the apologetic note that Verstappen didn't send to his team, the three-time world champion said, "Whether I should apologize? It was pretty clear to me that the strategy was wrong. I'm very committed, like everyone in the team, and we always try to achieve perfection. When things don't go the way they should, as far as I'm concerned, it's pretty normal to express your frustrations," which I did. Of course, a lot of adrenaline goes through your body then, but also in the post-race meeting, we clearly talked about it. All of this is definitely coming to get Red Bull at once, because even Verstappen acknowledged that it's not as easy as just showing up to a race and then fixing all of the issues, which is why he doesn't see any reason as to why he should be apologetic over his radio messages in the past race in Hungary. An activity of the three-time world champion has drawn particular attention in the past couple of days, with Helmut Marko saying that Verstappen won't participate in these events anymore. But the Dutchman has denied such claims and laughed them off by sending fierce warning to Red Bull to not stick their noses where they shouldn't, adding, "No, it's not like I have a ban. We talked about it and I said they don't have to worry because there's no sim race on the schedule for a while. But I also don't have to tell them what they can do in their private time during a race weekend. I won both races in Imola and virtual Nürburgring 24 hours, but then you don't hear anyone talking about it. But if you don't win, then other issues are being brought up. It's not new, I've been doing this since 2015. I've won 3 world titles and I think I can reasonably assess what I can and cannot do." The situation in Red Bull is all but safe and sound right now because McLaren are just 51 points behind them in the Constructors' Championship, and having locking the front row in Hungary as well as winning the race, which was something that was quite unexpected given the nature of the track, it's a clear reminder that there are teams to beat now, which has been said by many high-profile Red Bull members as well. Now, Red Bull can no longer hope that Verstappen will win the race, and the amount of points that Perez will score will be insignificant, because in every race so far that Verstappen isn't winning and McLaren is, the gap will be narrowing down unless the Austrian team manages to pull a P2 and P3 finish, while Piastri or Norris would be out of the top 5 if either of them wins the race, which is a scenario that is hard to imagine considering how close they are to each other during the race. All of this is poised to bring us a very interesting race in Spa, and it does seem like Verstappen has started to feel the pressure in the Drivers' Championship as well, saying that it's all but over and Norris definitely has a legitimate chance to win it now that he has the fastest car and most all-round car on the grid. This is something that Mercedes would be very happy to hear, because they're openly committed to signing Verstappen as soon as possible, potentially even in 2025, and making a great lineup with Antonelli if this far-fetched scenario could come as close as possible to realization. While this would put Russell out of the picture amid talks that he already started negotiations with Audi, Mercedes were put in the situation thanks to Hamilton's departure. So Spa will be yet another weekend in which the Silver Arrows will try to prove to Verstappen that they have what it takes to win championships with this machinery. With all of this in mind, what do you think about the upcoming weekend for Red Bull, and furthermore, do you think that they will struggle to replicate the results with Verstappen from the previous 2 years? Let us know in the comments below, and once you do that, make sure to click on the video that's appearing on your screen right now.